here. Thank you. So several things. I just want to make an announcement. Jerry is back. I'm very glad. I know Jerry is missing more nice weather.
I'm glad to see you guys. I can't say that than that.
And he has accepted the zoning inspector position. Good job, there he is.
I had a few drinks in for.
Very happy about that. And anyway, we do on our agenda have an application tonight, but first, now that I'm called to order, I would like you to join us to do the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Darcy Kaplan.
Here.
Angela Brown.
Here.
Jenny Slows.
Here.
Jasper De Christopher.
Here.
Tara Shields.
Here.
Keith Gosha.
I will read the adopted policy, which is that the zoning commission will give each applicant or agenda item 10 minutes or at the discretion of the chairperson to make a formal presentation. Chair will then allow questions from commission members in order to provide a timely and orderly discussion of business for consideration. Finally, the audience will then be given up to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the chairperson for each speaker to respond. Chairperson may limit repetitive debate, and all comments from the audience must be addressed to the chairperson. I'm going to add that if you do speak, please let us know your name and your address. And that helps us. We have minutes from our last meeting, which was on March 12th. If you all got to read them, does anybody like to make a motion to approve those minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve BZC minutes from March 12th, 2024.
I'll second. Mr. De Christopher.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Shields.
Yes.
Ms. Kaplan.
Yes. Okay. So we're continuing with the hearing, revised from through 2024 is BZC 24-001, BZC 24-002, and BZC 24-003, filed by Page Blow Road Limited, 6660 North High Street, Suite 1E, Worthington, Ohio. Applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary development plan to rezone parcels to, I will not read, but it's plus or minus 92.498 acres. Is Farm District FR1 to transitional, planned unit development TPD, and Farm Residential to Neighbor Commercial District NCD, and Farm Residential District FR1 to Planned Commercial District ECD at 560 Peachville Road, Lewis Center, Ohio 40335, known as Oak Park. Couple things. We are missing Jenny seated tonight because this hearing, although tabled and changed significantly, we only saw it before zoning commissioners. So on the advice of our person from the prosecutor's office, we are just going to have to remain a group of 4. So thank you for your flexibility, but apparently just yes. However, she is here and will ask her usual insightful questions. So although she won't be able to vote, she'll still participate. Guess that being said, if you want to go ahead and make your presentation.
Okay, well, I'm Todd Ferris of Ferris Planning and Design, and tonight Ed is going to present all of this fun stuff to you. I can hand out the little packet stuff.
Well, we prepared a presentation for everybody just to kind of go over, Anna Magus, Ferris Planning and Design. It's 4876 Cemetery Road in Hilliard. Put together a PowerPoint just to kind of go over the changes since the last hearing, since there's been a fair amount of it. And the back half of the presentation shows more in depth. Which we might not have to get into, but they're there for reference. I might have to see a little there. Okay. Okay, so we have, we're going to address, all the items from the TPUD portion, which is this northern half and these townhomes down here. Largest change that's happened to this portion, was to remove units from the TPUD sub-area to achieve, 4 dwelling units per acre. And we've removed 17 units, with 15 coming from the condominium area and 2 coming from the townhomes. The next suggestion was to remove some of the condos from around the pickleball court to expand that open space. We kind of reconfigured this whole area here so that the open spaces were a little bit more accessible instead of being kind of sandwiched between 2 lots. Now we have our open space fronted on these roadways and a little bit more open space down here as well to try and kind of create more of a linear connection for all of the pedestrians in that area.
There you go.
The next suggestion was, what about more group-oriented open spaces? Could we include shelters, activity areas? We've included multiple shelters, I believe about 5, into our reconfigured open spaces. There's one up here, one by these pickleball courts, one overlooking this existing pond, one down here with this open activity area and a dog park. And then there's one down here in the area with the townhomes. And then we've also we've revised our open space down here to make it a little bit more of a place to be instead of just a walking path through it. The next item, there was a question about would there be a clubhouse or a gathering place for the condo owners. It was decided that in building 3, which is this building down here on the multifamily portion, it will contain a minimum 8,000 square foot recreation facility that will serve the occupants of all of Oak Park and the surrounding community as well. There's a question about the structure separation for the condos, and we have a 10-foot structure separation, which will only apply to the condominium area, and then a 20-foot structure separation for the townhomes, which you can find on page 4 of the development text. Next item was to show calculations for the net developable acreages, which we have provided, and if you look at Exhibit C6, it will show those calculations. And the next item was a question of if we could add a bridge over the stream, and we've added a pedestrian crossing kind of right here in the middle of the site to connect over the stream. Continued with the TPUD comments, there's a question of whether basements will be utilized in the TPUD area. That basements might be utilized in the TPUD area, but are definitely not a requirement. The next item, there was a comment that you would like to see all the townhomes abutting the Berlin Meadows, these 5 right here, be limited to 2 stories. And we have limited all these to 2 stories, with the more interior ones being allowed to be 3 stories. And then we also have a statement in the text as well that the roof lines of the townhomes will be varied so that any townhome building that's 3 stories shall have a varied roof line with a maximum of 80% of the roof line at the same elevation. And that variation in height will be a minimum of at least 3 feet. Both of those are on page 4 and 6 of the development text. There was a comment that you would like to see elevations of the side and rear for the townhomes. And Exhibit G2 shows side and rear townhome elevation examples for this. And then the last comment for the TPUD area was to continue conversation with Connor Lane neighbors to make sure they're buffered sufficiently. And their conversations continued after the last hearing. And the residents stated that they would like to see mounding and a variety of evergreen trees to screen that area, which is what we have proposed all along this boundary right here, which is also shown on Exhibit D2. Those are all the changes we had for the TPUD. I can keep going for the rest of it, or if we want to talk about that before I get into PCD, it's up to you.
Do we want to do just the entirety of the TPUD first? And then
Might make it less confusing.
swing over to the other efforts? Yeah, I think that's a good approach. Let's do the TPUD. And look at, referencing those, but those are in here, right?
Some of, I just have the main plans in the PowerPoint. Some of the exhibits will have to be from the book.
And we find C6 in particular.
It should be in tab 3. Yeah, C6.
I was trying to do the math myself. I was literally just doing that. And then I'll check your calculations.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Call down the math black hole. C6.
So basically the charts at the bottom of that one, it might be a little small actually, we can really have our calculations on that.
I was a little confused because the TPD chart is 64.9 acres.
Yes.
And then you talk about method alcohol. Reference some wetlands and things like that. So
Yes.
is buildable calculated out at all, or how did you guys get the map?
Our net developable is the, you multiply it to remove right of ways from it at a 0.85, and then we remove any existing ponds and wetlands on the site from that acreage as well.
Because I did come out to the percentages, and I thought you must have taken out some of the wetlands or something.
Yes, yeah.
Because that always confuses me in trustee maps.
Yeah.
So net developable, roughly 11 acres less. 53.217 units, and that's how you got to the net density of 4.0. I was wondering that. Terry, you want to start with the questions?
I think you guys do a wonderful job of putting, the changes that we requested and laying it out for us nicely, so thank you guys for that. It's easy to read. I guess I still have a little bit of concern with the open space. Just the pickleball courts being, even though they're surrounded by landscape, kind of what I've touched on in the past about landscaping being a buffer zone kind of for noise and things like that. And I think I touched on the pickleball courts providing noise to the neighbors beside it. So it being, it's nice that it's central to the community itself, but I'm not sure about it being adjacent to, neighboring properties right there. Do you know roughly how big that, or how the distance from the adjacent homes it would be?
This distance in here?
Yeah.
I believe this distance right here is 50 feet. It should be about 50 feet from the corner of that lot.
Okay, and then the walking path that goes through it would be going besides the homes, I guess,
This
and to the
back
back of the homes. Is there any buffer between, as people are walking through to get to the pickleball court on that side, yes. Is there any buffer for, privacy, security besides just the lines of trees on each side?
We had planned to have fencing along these edges to kind of define that line through there so you don't have people walking back through. And then trees and plantings along this whole strip, and then trees along here as well.
Okay. So then, I guess for the first two, people might be walking through and looking into people's windows on the side, if there are any on the side. Yes, and then the backs of people's houses, if it's just, is it a low fence, privacy fence?
I believe all the fences along here will be the 4-rail fencing, so it's a 4-ish foot lower fence.
I mean, I do like the reconfiguration of the setup, I just don't know if it being central to the surrounding houses. I don't know, but I think I've touched on privacy before, for people walking through. So I mean, I guess I don't know if maybe removing that back path, if they're able to access it from the front of it, I guess is what it would be considered on the right side.
Yes, so then the pathway would just be this connection.
Yeah, and yeah. I don't know, I just think that's, whoopsie.
Nope, I really lost it.
And I appreciate you calling out the open spaces like you did in the development text. They just still seem kind of small in comparison to the ponds and the, I guess now that it's been reconfigured a little bit, they're like this, I can't tell the top, yep, that one. Are you able to access it from the street there too, on that corner?
We're gonna have a sidewalk connection over
Okay,
there, so there's fencing running along here, we'll just have a split, so
Okay.
this sidewalk connects over to that.
and that's just a little seating area?
That's just a small, like 15 by 15 shelter, with seating and then that pathway would connect over.
Okay. I guess just the overall feel of the TPUD would be more, I personally couldn't see myself going to that shelter, maybe if there's not anything around it, if it's a grandparent that wants to have kids over and there's no parks, or playgrounds. I just think adding some sort of attraction to the open space would be my suggestion. I see, the dog park and the swings, and I think the dog park area is great where it's along the bottom and kind of in between the two developments. And then, sorry, this is a really big book. I just flip out on the pages. Somebody else has something off the top of their head, they want to jump in while I flip through to find my
Yeah,
notes.
well, Todd Ferris at Ferris Plan and Design. One of the things that we have found working with EPCOM, one of the things that they do with the condominium developments is provide these little parkettes, is what they call them. People become kind of protective of them, but there's smaller areas that are located within there that, the little groups get together, I guess, versus the big groups. So when we see these little areas, they may seem small, but these people really do enjoy them, use them a lot. So they're not necessarily wanting to get 50 people together to do whatever, but that's why we have some of these isolated small places on here, just from experience that they really like to use those spaces. We again incorporated the large areas down on the south, more central, but that's why we have some of the small areas.
Sarah, I'll ask a question if you're still looking. So in the one at the top where there's the roundabout right there, sorry, not roundabout, oh my gosh, cul-de-sac. Right number, what is that, 3? I don't know what that is, yeah. Is there, you said that there are tables at that, there's gonna be a table at it, like a picnic table or something? Is that
We
what
just
you
have
mentioned?
like a concept idea for it, would be seating
Okay.
in that area, that was, I don't know about picnic tables, but.
Yeah, we would have
it's a possibility.
something inside the shelter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shelter.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that being, so what I can visualize it being, honestly, is that's where people, like you said, a small group of people go to meet up. It's whether you have like different clubs that get together, a foot club, a sewing club, you know what I mean, things of that nature. And it does look like there's enough grassy space right there to, to throw frisbee and stuff like that. Not anyone, a huge kid, but like someone could bring, smaller kids and just run around a little bit right there. Well, there, remind me, I forgot the front, there is fencing along the front, correct, when you come in? I know that we have the barriers that say the name of the village. But do we actually have a fence coming down the main street?
Yes, yeah, we have fencing along Peach Flow here, and then that'll.
Right there,
and
yes,
out
okay,
along
good.
there as well.
Because that's the only thing I was gonna say. So yeah, that's what I kind of pictured those smaller ones being.
Oh, sorry. Thanks.
You're gonna get quiet.
That's fine.
And as long as there's a concept for that space, then I think that would be, just making sure that it shows something like tables and chairs, something of that nature.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed kind of in line with the concept is you had kind of like pictures and you had them on there, but anything you can do if you already kind of have an idea of size.
Yes.
Because it's that idea, if you say you have a shelter, but it's like an 8x8 shelter that barely covers 2 people, that's not really a shelter. But if it's 15 by 15 or 20 by 20, that's a very different type of shelter in that area.
Right.
So anywhere where you can, even like the dog park, you can make a dog park that's 20 by 20 and there aren't gonna be a whole lot of dogs in that dog park. But if it's 40 by 40, the more you can do to provide, I mean, when I look through it, I really like this amenity package better than the last one. But anything you can do to provide that extra detail on, okay, what kind of size are we referencing? Because it's nice to see it pictorially, but if I can get a better feel for how big is it? Because not everything size, when you start building up those structures and amenities, they aren't all equal just because you say you're gonna put it in.
Right, and I think, didn't I have you put the size of these in where you described the open spaces?
It should be in the development text, the sizes of them.
So we did have that in there, but it may not have been in the pictures, so.
Yeah, I saw pictures, but I don't think I saw dimensions. It may be somewhere else, but I didn't connect
The
those
one
up.
was a 15 by 15 shelter, and then E.
Kind of had a hierarchy of sizes.
It ranged from about 15 by 15 to 30 by 30, I believe.
I think as well, and we talked about swings, and I know we talked about these being kind of, well, we can't say age restricted homes, I do believe that with the draw into Olentangy schools, like you are gonna get kids, and so I've seen like in like the villages of Olentangy Meadows, those type of freestanding condo communities, they have just a really tiny playground. So that might be something that would be in addition. I know that my kids, when they go over to a friend's house and they have those little tiny areas, it's a good place for kids to gather. But, it's not huge, anything huge, but just on a little, 10 by 10 pad and something for them to climb and get their energy out on. And especially if, even if kids are just visiting at that point. Because I think more amenities up there instead of having to go all the way down to, like, say, a community center or something, or a community area where they're having to maybe walk a long ways or drive their car and there's not enough parking at that point. Just having those little playgrounds are, I think, helpful. And then how much, I guess that's the next. I think the net developable calculations was crossed, that was good. And the 10-foot structure separation shall apply to condominium. and 20, for the townhome. So that was another thing that I was concerned about, so I'm glad you addressed that. I think that is it for me for the TPD. Keep wanting to jump ahead myself.
Go ahead.
Okay. Like I said, I definitely like the upgraded amenities package. What I really like most about it is it took the stream and kind of made it a focal point between the two areas. And by adding pedestrian bridge and being able to cross back and forth. When you start to talk about the walkability, and I think we had that kind of talked before, if there's no way to get across there except the road, odds are I'm not gonna walk, I'm gonna drive, and that kind of defeats the purpose of driving to build it, is a walkable area. So I like the idea that you kind of made it really a walking path feature with the pedestrian bridge, which really hopefully will kind of bring that walkability so folks aren't trying to drive from one side to the other. As well as just giving, from an exercise, dog walking, everything, there's a lot that can be done along that stream. I like the way you kind of featured it. And used the fact that it was already there, so. Some of the other things I liked, when you had your landscaping mounds, I noticed in several areas, instead of just one common mound and sticking trees on top of it, which works, is you kind of overlapped and you created like groups of mounds where you had different shapes and sizes where they don't touch each other, but by looking through them, they overlap, and that's what's creating your divide. So I like the way you used not just a single mound, but kind of molding them into each other. And the fact that the density is now scored, that's always a big plus. Those are kind of the things I liked. Things I did kind of have questions about on G1, which is the condos. Not a big issue, but probably more for as we start to look at moving forward. You got the front and back elevations. You added the side elevations for the townhomes, but the condos still don't necessarily have anything that kind of depicts it. So I've got the front and the back, and I've got all four sides of the townhomes. Would like to maybe see something that gives a depiction of the sides of the different condominiums, style buildings. Just so we can validate, there are architectural features there, and it's not just a solid empty wall thing. That was G1. I think on G2, you added about the text of your roofline variation, and definitely took a look at G2, which shows that, and I like that. I think it looks a lot better than just a plain roof. The only thing I saw is the picture in the middle. It's the two-story one, and the roof is just like one solid roof line part. So I didn't know if you mentioned on the three-story you want to break it up, but I'd like to see it also broken up on the two-story. Whether that's kind of the fake gables, a couple of dormers here and there, but just to kind of add some variation, so that on that one stretch along the eastern neighbors, I think it's Berlin Meadows.
Yeah.
Those roof lines to them aren't necessarily just long stretches of single guttering, because those will be the two-story. So I think that would give it a little bit more architectural feel. You gave examples of shelters and the different types of amenities. Don't know if it's going to be on this one. Yeah, it's actually on this one, right after landscape and amenity character. You had a couple of different shelters. Just a curiosity question, is there a reason why you had more than one type?
I didn't want them all to be the same because it'd be boring.
Okay, yeah, I just wondered, I saw it, I'm like, okay, I mean, they're different types, I'm like, I don't have an issue with that, I just kind of wondered if there was a specific reason.
Yeah, because I kind of like that one at the bottom,
Yeah.
but I don't see that everywhere because it's kind of industrial, you know what I'm saying? But it implies movement, which, over a pond I think is cool, but I don't think I want that at the corner. So that's.
And then on your pond overlook seating, you had 7 and 8, which is the next slide. 7, you kind of have it on that like little concrete pad. The only thing I wondered about 8 is kind of, because it looks like it's just kind of in the dirt and in the landscaping, I was worried a little bit about upkeep and like, if it just basically turns into a muddy bog.
Yeah, and that would meet ADA anyway, so it has to be on a
Okay.
hard surface.
Okay, that was, I didn't think anything major there, just kind of pointed out. Divergences, the building heights, obviously along, you were looking at the 45. We're keeping the 35 along Berlin Meadows. Your 45 is more towards your internal space, it's your own area. So I didn't really see that as kind of a big issue. Setbacks, it can be to plan, so that one isn't really concerning. You don't really have lots like you would with lots for houses. Structure separation, it is tight, but again, it's essentially all internal to yourself, and because of the condo aspect, it's not really individual homeowners that are maintaining those. So in that one, from a standpoint of decreasing there, don't really have an issue. I would ask that as I read through it, I did have like, there were some cases where maybe your verbiage on that divergence, it was kind of like requesting a modification or change. If you can kind of more strongly word it of, this is a divergence that we're requesting. So I don't have to, so as I'm reviewing all of this, I don't have to infer what you meant when you said that you're requesting. I know that you've requested a divergence. I mean, I knew that that's what you were doing, but if you can kind of highlight that a little bit better, I know it makes it easier for us to spot it and see that, hey, this is something different from what our code is. Hopefully we are finding it and we tend to do that, but if the easier it is to spotlight that these are things that you can see as divergences, how do we feel about it? And then I know as we get going to the trustees, we have zoning, they have a lot more things going on their plate, so to make it easier for them to very easily spot what's going on in the text, I think that helps them as well.
Yeah.
So no real issue with any of it, just more kind of language as I read through some of the plan, just to make it easier, especially as we get into the next steps.
Okay.
So we're pretty good because we deal with it, but trustees have more than just zoning, so it makes it a little tougher for them if they gotta find it a little harder. So, and really, the only other question I had was about the rec center, which is in the next section, but you can talk to it, so. And that was all I had. I mean, I really like this new thing.
One more, like, the townhomes that have the one-car garage units, are you finding in any other communities that that parking is an issue for those types of homes? Because I'm assuming there's no street parking, and
Yeah.
because that'd be
we
back
have-
to back, and
We have the garage plus the space behind it, so we're at the 2 for those, minimum. There is some limited street parking, but, I think if we get a lot of ones, which they usually don't do a whole lot of ones, but if we do, then we would probably need to provide some off-street parking, some admin spaces to accommodate guests for that. So that's a good point, and we haven't addressed percentages of ones versus twos at all, not knowing anything about that. Predominantly, I think they're heavily 75% of the two cars. Most everybody wants a 2-car garage. So roundabout way of saying that. So I guess we need to address that somehow.
and I think just some, maybe, again, adding some parking just in general, or if there is no street parking, even sometimes with a 2-car garage and 2 spots in a driveway, it's difficult, people are having like a get together or party, like where does these people park,
Right.
So having to maybe come all the way down to using the commercial facilities, and I don't.
Wow, they would kill us.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, so.
Now, there's actually a lot of space on here, because these are 26-foot wide roadways in here, because if we have 3-story, we have to have 26. So we have a lot of parallel parking spaces, but I don't disagree with you, we need to address that. So, we don't want people parking where they shouldn't be.
I'm done, yes.
Sure, yeah. So my first piece was, I found the 15 by 15 and 30 by 30, so thank you for pointing us back to that. I'm pretty sure I got it correct, but what I saw was over by, so obviously at the very front, can you go back a couple slides? So that we can,
The whole thing, or?
that one's fine.
Okay.
So very top, coming out of Peach Blow, that one is 15 by 15, and it's that more industrial looking shelter, and then the other one over, on the other, cul-de-sac, far east side, that one's the 15 by 15 industrial, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then the dog park one and the one up by the pickleball, those are the 30 by 30s.
Correct.
Okay, what is that other space right there opposite of the pickleball? Yes, what is that?
Be like a little patio area, more so a paved area, and instead of just a shelter, it would be for, it's a more of an unprogrammed kind of, space for that area.
Okay,
Tables and chairs.
okay, all right. I just was like, I have no idea what that is. Okay, all right, that's fine. I knew it couldn't be under a shelter.
No.
I was like, well, that is being a shelter,
The
but.
space just really
Okay.
wanted to be symmetrical.
Okay, that's totally fine. I am not as concerned with the walkway between. I like that better than the idea of people having to walk around that portion. I think with fencing and trees there, it will be okay. It's just one of those things, with this being a condo neighborhood, you accept that your houses are closer together and that some might not be the best location, I guess. Some people might, be absolutely fine with that. I mean, when you look at a lot of other developments, like where there's a pool or a community center, common area, there's a lot of them where unfortunately some people's windows do look right out over it. So I'm more okay with that. I like that we only have basically 2 homes that will be affected by that, right there at the beginning of the walkway into it. And like I said, I really like this layout. This is so much better. The other one was good, but this is just so much better than the other one. I do like all of the smaller broken parts. I'm okay with the sizes of them because I do think that people will kind of, group off, and the fact that we're gonna talk about the rec center in the next portion, where it's still something larger, because kind of also what I see though is, that smaller one being up towards the front too is if people have, family over for a birthday party or, a small birthday party or gathering, then it's just a nice little spot to utilize. I'm happy that you removed everything down on the townhouses to be 2-story. And we talked about the 2-story line, the roof line. The backs do look, and I go back and forth on this. The fronts look really good, but the backs look so plain. I don't know how much I care about that. I mean, it's a 2-story view. Eventually the trees will get taller, but the backs it's just one solid roof going across basically when you kind of look at what the back is. Like I said, I can go either way on that. I liked I just lost the bridge over that area. I think that makes it much more useful. Let me see, I have a question right here. There we go. Maybe I had it and we just talked about. Yeah, we just talked about that. Something that's interested in.
One other thing, I'm looking for that, Believe it or not, the pickleball courts and the pools and all that stuff, they have people that fight it in those spaces to be next to them because they're the pickleball experts, and they want to be right next to that court so they can get there.
Yeah. I think,
Their
I mean,
own court.
Well, yeah, I said they become very possessive of these things. And, now I have found that it has to go north-south. There's a professional pickleball court regulation site. There is not, but there is. I wrote all kinds of stuff about pickleball that I never knew about.
when I find it, I'll ask to speak, but, I mean, those are my biggest things, I wanted to know what that spot was, and then the roof line being, the 2 stories, like I said, as long as we have fencing along those walkways, getting them in pickleball, and as long as we have fencing coming in, I'm fine with those, I didn't really have any other questions, I don't think.
Yeah. We've got a lot of situations in different communities where there's over 20 feet between walls and we've got that.
Yeah,
You know, we do the fencing there too, but you know, you still can touch the buildings, but I mean, we have 50
Exactly.
footers. This is a lot.
I mean, people that are moving into these neighborhoods, they understand that, and that
That's what they want.
you know, they're gonna have, that's what they want, so. And because now it's only 2 right there, it's the backyards of the other 2, I'm okay with that, so. It doesn't affect me as much. Okay, Josie.
Okay, well, I was trying to look at the townhomes and elevations. I really like the differentiation there in the roof lines. That's great. My question that I have is I'm sort of doing the area view, particularly the area in the center. And I see like on those buildings, are those 5 units per building?
Generally, there's 2 that are a little bit more, but the rest of them are.
So are there 5 driveways going to 5 different garages there?
These are kind of, yes, they have little spaces in between, but
Okay.
it should be 5.
Okay, and the door, is there a door? Because I just couldn't tell from looking at it, does each unit have an individual like front door?
Yes,
And I kind of thought that's what it was, but I wasn't sure. And is there a back door?
I believe so, yes.
Because the elevation didn't look like that to me. So will those individual townhomes then have any separation out that back door? Like, will there be a privacy fence or a little patio or any space for those individual townhomes?
They do fencing and patios up there.
Okay, I was just kind of looking at the elevation and wondering, what's that gonna look like?
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, this product isn't a masterpiece on the back. We did find the best ones we could find.
So yeah, it's a townhome. I mean, a little privacy or a little spot to, you know.
Yeah, they usually come out 8 to 16 feet depending with the fence. You've got your patio, that way you can have your own little private space so you're not looking at your neighbor. We will have landscaping when it's in, too.
Yeah, like I said, I was just looking at it, but given that each one of those maybe has sort of 5 individual driveways, there really can't be any parallel parking.
No, not in front of those units. I wish this had a pointer on it, point to where we could have parallel parking. There's all kinds
I
of
mean,
places.
it would be more so along like these areas and those. Down here.
Anything that you would call a yard would definitely be out the back way. And I realize the townhomes aren't known for their yards, I get that.
Correct.
I'm wondering how that all.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got a patio out back that people use and, you know, they've got the pathways and the sidewalks. That's what's in those communities.
And you know, some of the townhomes, you're working up to 45 feet for 3 stories. Will that be like a main living area and then 2 stories of bedrooms? What's the layout on those 3-story townhomes?
To be honest with you, I don't know how they do that exactly. I'm assuming that the bonus rooms and the kitchens are at the top.
Okay, okay.
And I don't, I can show you the floor plans.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like 3 stories.
What I've seen typically when you walk in, the garage is right there, obviously, there's usually a small, what people use is like a little flex area, like either office or, and it's office or it's, people put their workout equipment right there. You go up the stairs and, that's your main space. You have your living room that's to the side right here, it's long and you go up the front. And the back is typically the kitchen. Dining area is right there with the living room, and then you go up to the third floor and that's where your bedrooms are.
Okay, so the first floor is not what I would think of in a ranch.
No,
Yeah.
not typically.
I was just trying to envision this, and I'm like, I'm just saying, it's gotta be.
It's a different type of living.
But they're owned, individually owned. Okay, and I know the condos are too, so, okay. I like that.
Yeah, it's really trying to give people the opportunity to buy something that's affordable still. If 350 to 400,000 is affordable, right? That is in today's market. So.
Right, no, I get it. I think the rest of my questions really are more about the project as in its totality. But one thing I did want to clarify is Kathy had on here about our hearing, and it does have on there the NCD still. But my understanding is that you are withdrawing the NCD portion of the application. I just want to have that on the record. basically,
Okay.
since-
Yeah, because that's on the application, that is on the application, so I
Yes.
don't know how you really adjust that now. other than-
Well, yeah, I don't think they made you reapply, but you modify it. But we do want to be clear that that is no longer under consideration, and that that's at your request. Okay, all right. Do you have anything?
I don't, well, the only question was, so the buffering from lots 4 through 18 in the cottages, I know there's some mounding. How high is the mounding on that?
Oh, you're looking at me.
Which-
Over to the west from 4 through 18. I know there's trees and then there's mounding.
The mounding that we put in there would be 3 to 4 feet.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I think the open space looks great, and I'm glad that the density isn't, an issue. I guess my only concern was the structure separation. I don't love the requested deviation from 25 to 10 feet. To me, that feels like a huge deviation. I understand these are condos and they're going to be closer together, and it is sort of a self-contained community, but you have the people that are already there kind of looking over and seeing these homes that are super close. 10 feet is very close together. So in my opinion, that is a huge deviation, and knowing other developers are going to be asking for the same thing in exchange for, well, we'll just buffer, build up the open space. So I think that, it is a big ask from 25 to 10 specifically. I'm not as concerned with the townhomes being that they're separated by 20 feet, but I wish that were smaller, or even if it were just smaller over on from lots 4 through 18, just because that is over by a community that's been there, forever. But I understand you may not want to change the setback just for one portion, because you're probably gonna want to be consistent, but that's really my only concern. So, that's all I have.
Can I touch back on the townhomes real quick? If we want to go back to that slide, you bringing up the distance between the backs of them. Do you know what the distance is between the backs of those townhomes?
In this area,
Yes.
I believe it's 45 feet.
Because I'm just thinking if you have, these little patios, and what I envision is, you have those little paver pads, and then you've got little fencing around it. So if you've got 2 of those back to back, and they're, 16 feet out, so you're roughly, that 10 feet in between, could you create a walking path in the middle of there, to get to the, kind of the main area where that area? I don't know if you'd be able to, split those townhomes, but it might be something that gives access to the people who are towards the back, access to the open space a little bit.
Well, you're not the proposal isn't to put fences all the way across, yeah, so the back usually doesn't have a fence across.
So
You're
Just go straight
you're
down.
just open to, okay.
Yeah, it's just the sides.
We got to get in and maintain, put mulch in, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that space in between, if there was anything usable there to create, more of that walking path feel to connect different areas of the development.
It actually gives the people that are living in those spots, it gives them a little bit more yard.
Yeah, feeling a little
Yeah.
more area, for sure. Okay, understood. Thank
Right. So you guys don't have any more comments still, we're only dealing with the TPUD portion of this. If the audience members have comments or questions, we would open up for that. Anybody? Yes, sir.
You just, Philip Irvin, 774 Beach Flow. And just looking at the parking situation, it would be nice to see more designated parking. The other thing you really can service vehicle issues, they're all individually owned, so electricians, pumps, landscapers, things like that. They'll be coming in with trucks and trailers. And the single family homes, obviously, it's fairly decent, and the roadway looks decent. But as you get back into the townhomes and condos, I guess the parallel parking is pretty limited. We run into that on a pretty regular basis where it's a major problem with territorial. So I don't know, maybe better designation of how that's gonna work. I'll be interested in seeing if that makes sense. We're landscapers, and we've been run off and sworn at by people. You know, a lot of it's areas where they didn't think this through, like in Woodstone, they have the private drives that service multiple driveways, but they're not up to road width spec, and then you get tight spaces and you can be right on your customers. It's just a major problem. So I guess is township going to have a minimum amount of parking spaces per unit?
Yeah, they do.
Is it two? Okay. Which is pretty low, I guess.
Yeah, I would find for this type of use, 1.85 generally is.
But you're right about service vehicles, you know, you get a farmer, a landscaper, somebody like that, it's tough.
You can't park, 10 units away and service is still, you can't block on the driveway access, so it does have to be, some design. The other thing that we run into, I don't look at this closely, is snow. Do you consider snow removal at all when you lay roads out?
Not anymore, it doesn't snow.
Yes.
But you don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe. And that's a good point, that's.
Yeah, no,
There's a
that's-
stretch there that would be difficult to give service to.
Right, no, I don't disagree, but at the same time, I can't design a world around service vehicles because it'd be another world. So, just kind of hard to deal with that. We've gotten used to being able to park wherever we go. And we're trying to get away with it with this. We want this to be different. We don't want this to be our 100-foot lots where you can drive.
I've seen them design before where they have like 3 or 4, a fairly large continuous parking spot for every couple of units for overflow parking. I don't know how it will get there, but those are really nice. They're easy to service in terms of snow removal. They can be utilized by more than one unit. So, because any given unit doesn't need all the space at one time, but as long as it's close enough to be within walking distance to service it, every unit, that's what we're needing for service vehicles. That makes it very, very efficient. And that would be pretty much the content of the townhouse section. I don't know where you work that in, but that's almost as important as green space from our perspective in working inside of these units.
So if I kind of look between, and you can barely see it there where it's the green in between sections. So you do have like between, I guess it's 20, building 21 and 20, how you have a wider green space right there between. It could be, depending on how large that is, 2 to 3 cars maybe, that could be like individual car spaces or lines could be put. You know what I mean? Like in those green sections, maybe putting, instead of them being grass, having designated parking spots, not but having the lines be there, stripes there, and 4 extra parking. Cause it's kind of, otherwise it's just a jut out of grass that would need to be mowed.
Right. No, we can certainly look at having some overflow parking located throughout the design. So there's lots of areas on here to tuck two spaces here and there.
All right, are there any other audience comments for the TPUD? No, quiet group? Okay, going once. All right. That being the case, segue on to the next part. Ooh.
Okay, for the PCD section, which, well, the first item that we addressed was, we had discussed combining the NCD and PCD portions, which is the multifamily and the pure commercial, into just being PCD, which we have moved forward with. So there would only be two different zoning areas on site, which would be TPUD and PCD. So that the PCD would encompass all of, it's kind of a meandering line, but all of this along here. And the next one, we had discussed variation in the mixed-use building roof lines as well, like how we proposed for the townhomes. And we have added language into the development text to say that any roof line that exceeds 100 feet in length will include roof line variations. So that will apply to these four multifamily buildings. We had discussed with you one of the NAICS codes, 722. The food and drink use, it requires that 30 or 300 foot setback, which we have added a versions for in the text to reduce it to 100 from any surrounding existing residential districts, but then it would be a 0 foot setback from our internal TPUD districts, so we weren't causing issues with this land in here. The next one was, we had a discussion if the garages along the south would fall under the accessory structures in the PCD. We reviewed the text. We didn't see any mention of the accessory structures for garages. We've kept that setback how we had proposed it previously. We might be incorrect. I don't know. Todd and I both reviewed it. We didn't see a mention, but so that has stayed the same on the south. There was talk about the possibility of a lot of divergences with both of these, with the NCD being combined with PCD. As it stands right now, we have 5 that we're requesting, and previously our PCD had 3 divergences and our NCD had 6. So we're kind of staying within that same zone with the amount of divergences, so it is not an unwieldy, next one, please. There was talk of a couple different restriction of uses in the site and possibly restricting daycare use, which we have gone ahead and removed from that it's on page 14 of the PCD text. And there was also a conversation about what happens to the 4-sided commercial when delivery trucks come and possibly not having dedicated loading zones. And we've also added language into the text that says our loading area shall be detailed and indicated on the final development plans when final users are known. All of the loading areas shall be appropriately screened and located to not interfere with adjacent residential areas, which is on page 4 of the development text. We had discussions about the traffic study completeness, and a traffic study has been provided as part of this submission. It's exhibit E10. And then lastly, another NAICS code, the hotels and motels and the bed and breakfast have been removed from the allowed uses in the site. And that's all the comments I have for this section.
Okay, I think we reviewed the changes. Would you mind just kind of giving an overview of the project itself?
Okay.
I've lost count of buildings, I can't remember where we are, I don't remember, but you've got the two kind of in the center, one's L-shaped and then the one that's a rectangle above it.
Mhm.
And those are the ones that you're putting apartments into?
So for the, four, multifamily buildings, these four in the middle here, one will be, purely, apartments.
Okay.
2 and 3 will be the ones that have, commercial on the first floor, and then the second and third floors will be apartments. And then 4 is another strictly apartments, building. So the commercial will be limited to these 2.
And then, it seemed like there was one really large building, is that the one to the right of the L-shaped building?
This one?
Yes.
Yes, this is the larger commercial area that the concept area for it is kind of like a boutique grocery store. And then the 3 outlets here on the side would all be about 10,000 square feet and standalone kind of commercial buildings.
And the 2 lower ones, those you said would be 3-story, so those also the 45-foot height that you're interested in. So I remember the picture you had was showing the visual angle from Worthington Arms with those existing garages. And so, okay. So I didn't think of that as quite as central, but that seemed to be what I remembered, and I just wanted to make sure that it's not dreaming. Okay. You guys have questions?
One thing they mentioned in the traffic impact study was the single lane roundabout, and whether that was appropriate or not, if you guys come up with anything.
I will have to defer to our traffic engineer here to answer those questions.
Mark from Advanced Design, 781 Sunfield Road, Ohio. A single lane roundabout is more than adequate to accommodate traffic that's going to be traveling through, including what's coming in from Golden Meadows and then anything that's generated on the site. So we'd anticipate that there'll be some traffic going that way. So yeah, the single lane roundabout is more than large enough. What will get built as part of the roundabout is what's called the truck apron. So there'll be the piece that you actually drive on, and then there's a piece adjacent to that on the inside for large vehicles. If they can't navigate the circle as it is, they'll be able to drive over the truck apron. We are having it around.
Thanks for clarifying that. And then I remember we touched on the garages, I think are the garages at the bottom
Yes, there's garages along the south.
and their elevation. Did you have any concepts of that anywhere?
I don't know if we do have an elevation for the
I kind of wondered what Worthington Arms folks will be seeing that rear view of those.
For the most part, it would be,
had that last time.
I kind of remember something, but.
We showed the section, but I doubt we showed you.
I don't think we have an elevation.
No, we didn't. I mean, you can imagine what they're gonna look like, right? They're the garages, and they got sloped roof, and they got doors. So,
Okay.
no,
I think
I,
it was just the sight line that we had.
yeah, it's just a
Yeah, I think it was
section.
just the sight line,
That was kind of a side view of it more so than rear.
Because I think maybe making sure that and again, I'm trying to tell somewhat in a smaller scale, the mounding between Worthington Arms and that, just kind of, again, so you're not staring at like garages in the back.
We do not have mounding there. We do have evergreen trees, and shade trees, like a solid line of those at the back of it. So there shouldn't be an area where you just have just a full garage and uninterrupted view of garage. It should have plantings
You
along
know, the opacity of
the whole
the.
face of it. I mean, for the evergreen trees, we would have them spaced at around 12 feet on center. So I mean, in the evergreens, that should be pretty limited opacity, but the shade trees, obviously, you're gonna see the trunks past that.
Maybe just some, adding in some smaller, or smaller but larger shrubs that could fill in the end of those shade tree areas, because as they grow out in the winter, maybe some evergreen shrubs of some sort, or, anything that might give it a little bit of a more landscape look, I guess, than, again, staring at a blank garage. And am I correct, and I was gonna bring my old book and I didn't. The central green space seems to have, did it get smaller?
Oh, significantly.
Yes.
No, nothing has changed.
Okay.
Nothing
I'm like, am I seeing things or?
This-
Yes.
This stayed the exact same.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And then is there, besides the commercial lots and, you know, there's the boutique grocery, so you've got their parking lot and you've got the parking lot for the apartment buildings, is there any other, I guess, parking? So again, if we have people from up at the TPUD coming down to, you know, use that central green space, if they, you know, can't walk, or especially since we're talking about the rec center now being included in that, are we adding more parking for access to that, to those things?
No,
Do you think that
no.
there's a,
We have the central parking in that central green, so people can park there, so that activates that space. But the parking ratio that we have shown accounts for the units as well as commercial requirements. And I think as we talked before, we usually figure 50% restaurant, which is our heaviest use for parking spaces, and the rest just general retail. So, you know, that's what we target to begin with, so that's how we've allocated parking spaces right now. So whether they come from here down to here, or they come from 10 miles from here to park, you know, we have the adequate parking spaces.
can you elaborate on the rec center a little bit in that?
To some degree, yeah, I visited the rec center, that Kieran, he's the developer on this, that, he has currently, it's over in Plain City. Now, I don't foresee that it's gonna be as heavily sport oriented as that, but it has badminton courts, it has volleyball courts, it has table tennis, it has pickleball, it has, it's a sports mecca, and actually that whole area, currently, we're looking at, it's gonna be crazy. But, so this is a scaled down version of that. Now, there's some smaller meeting rooms, places that people can gather in that as well. But again, we're looking at 8,000 square feet, not, I don't know what you got up there, 30 or 40, 45,000 square feet. It's not gonna be quite that big, but it's, you know, it's got a mixture of active and different age groups for it to be there. So, you know, it's just a small, 8,000 square feet is a small recreation center.
What type of workout room, did you say that?
You know, I don't know. Yeah, he's shaking his head, yeah, so I don't work out room. I didn't see that. They didn't let me go that far in.
And do you foresee that, you know, I know you said allowing access to, so would it be access for the entire community? Allowed access to that rec center?
I think the idea is that there's memberships there that are discounted for the people that live in this area. And if other people want to come, then they pay a different price. But that's the idea. You know, I don't know if, you know, obviously they do all kinds of different deals and stuff like that. First 12 months free, I don't know. You know, We gotta get the zone before we figure all that stuff.
I was gonna say, the only reason why I was asking is because I know that there is a huge need for, we don't have a Y. You know, so I think there will be a huge influx of people that if they find out that there's some sort of rec center, you know, that they would come and would probably purchase a membership, knowing, depending on what's offered. So just keeping in the back of your head that maybe that Mecca might
Well,
fit, you know, underneath one of the buildings or something, you know, those commercial, plans, it just kind of a FYI, I know that a lot of kids are looking for a place to play basketball.
yeah,
They
yeah.
they can't go to the Delaware Y anymore, courts are full, you know, and, that's something that's a huge need, I think, here in the township.
If it's that successful, something tells me that he'll sell himself one of his outlots to put some facility like that on there. Because that's one thing I've noticed so far is this client loves recreation. He purchases golf courses and brings them back to life. He also has a passion for that recreation facility, which we're also going to be developing. This is another place, but just so you're, cricket with grandstands. It's got indoor and outdoor soccer. It's going to have I don't want to call it top golf, but low golf. Maybe it's low golf. It's going to have softball and baseball fields. It's you know, something that you'd want to have. Now, that's not what we have slated here, obviously, but some of those elements will certainly peel off into
So it was just my traffic concerns and then.
Yeah, 8,000 square feet that's not even as big as in Planet Fitness, I don't think. So we're not talking huge. It's really to give them an opportunity to have a place. Typically, you know, we were talking the clubhouse before. What I see is like if it's in the condos, those are about 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, and they have a little pool, 20 by 30. And it's really an activity room with a fireplace and places to get cars. This is much bigger, obviously it serves more people, but even a large apartment complex, their rec centers are only 4,500 square feet. So that's a pretty big one. So.
And I guess more so, I was referring to the fact that you did remove, or I wouldn't say remove, but in place of the community center at the top and the cottages, you know, and allowing that to be the central space or like the clubhouse, you know, just making sure that it's within a good size for people to gather and, if you're serving the whole community with that, if that makes sense.
Right, not to muddy the waters or anything, but when we get to a final development plan, somebody may say, we really need to have that community center, we need one out here for these people. Because he may not be the person that develops it. Okay, right now he's thinking that it's him, and he wants to do it down here. But if it's not him, they may say, I want a community center here, so we have to deal with that and change it, because most of the other people do.
For the older community, you know, Source Point is only about 1.5 miles up the road. And they have recreation centers and facilities and classes and for older individuals. I think it's 55 and older, so.
So are you envisioning in that building like a rental office for the apartments or a management office?
It would be combined. That'd probably take up 400 of the 8,000 square feet.
Yeah.
20 by 20, yeah, it's pretty big in the office. But we thought that was a good way to get food and drink away from that corner as well.
Okay, are you done? Okay.
Or not to like come up with something else while you're talking.
You'll think while we talk.
That's
Okay, that's fine. As far as updates to your plan, Things I like, the call out, we talked before about, kind of in that PCD is that aspect of, it worries more about the kind of the viewable elevations but because of the fact that this is kind of pushing the envelope the other direction, so you put the buildings up towards the road to get the parking behind, that elevation has to be the same all the way around, so it's uniform. So calling that out specifically, so we don't have to worry about that it's gonna end up that way. I like that. I definitely like the common green space with the parking around it, and then even more so, kind of, I guess that'd be the southwest of that, is that statement oak. And kind of the fact that really that quadrant has been left, other than the kind of the drainage or retention pond, it's been left with that and kind of just a green space, not so much developed. So I like that aspect to kind of add in that corner to kind of keep it so that it gives a little bit of buffering to those existing folks to the south, and then also a little bit to the west. Taking and adjusting your uses, not only did you take care of the ones that we wanted, but we took out some other ones, such as making sure we don't end up with a gas station in there somehow, just because it was in the code. Auto dealers, I think one of them had to do with like storage units, a few others. So you went through there and actually did a review of your uses to kind of get rid of maybe some of the less desirable ones that wouldn't really fit in this way you're developing this. So it is more office, commercial, maybe some food type of things, retail. So more of that type of atmosphere instead of, I don't know, maybe a little bit more industrial type commercial. Yeah. So I like that you did some extra work there, even above and beyond what you did, or asked. I saw in there you talk about, you may not have the shed, but you talked about kind of the building design for the apartments. It mentioned like studio apartments, roughly about 590 square feet, 1 bedroom, 680. I know typically in other places in our code, I don't think we spell it out here, but we typically kind of minimize it at about 800 for comfort for 1 bedroom. And then you had some things in there that kind of worried me a little bit, where you talked about, there wasn't really anything that broke down how you were going to do those buildings residentially. In other words, is building 1 going to be all studios, or is it going to be all 2 bedrooms? You didn't really have that breakdown yet. There was also some talk about if you went more than 2 bedrooms, kind of an extra 120 square feet per excess bedroom. I'd like to see those numbers locked down a little bit better, just from a perspective of what's your thought there? I understand it's early, but anything you can do to kind of, you have an overall number of units. My guess is I hope, have an estimate of what that breakdown is going to be, or else you couldn't come up with that original number. So just to be able to kind of understand what that is, to get a feel for it. I mean, you mentioned the different sizes, but I don't really know, like, I couldn't do the math based on the square footage of the building to understand utility space and everything. And so anything you can do in there, and again, it's, there's us and then there's the trustees, but helping understand the way you're looking to use those buildings. And also helps, number of bedrooms kind of correlates to the number of people, so they understand that as well. I think it's building 1 and 4 are the commercial for the first floor.
That's the opposite. 2 and 3 are the ones that have commercial on the first floor.
One's around green.
Oh, okay. So 2 and 3 are, 2 and 3 have the ones around the green have that commercial, 1 and 4 don't. The rec center, is it in one of those commercial buildings, or is it also?
Yes.
It would be in 3.
Okay, all right. Just personal opinion, that concept of commercial first floor, residential upper. I mean, my preference is all of them would be that way. I understand that's a big number change. And again, it just goes into, that's kind of the way I'd like to see it, and that way it's uniform across all of it. That you have that commercial space with living above it. I know there was, when I went to regional plan, they talked more about what's at Evans Farm and the PCD and kind of the way that was done with the divergences. That's just my kind of personal preference. I'd like to see them all the same as opposed to a couple apartment buildings and then commercial and residential and a couple others. Especially when the rec center is kind of, when I look at those numbers, that 8,000 square foot might actually be that whole first floor. So we're pretty darn close to it. So I don't know. But that was just, again, kind of my personal preference. Any numbers you can provide to help us understand the number of units per building and how big those individually are. So we understand that breakdown. You mentioned out in here in your divergences, your building heights, you were looking at 45 versus 35. Based on what you're building overall, I didn't see that as something that I would necessarily really object to. And your setbacks, especially with the what is it, the restaurant one? It kind of, it's in our code that way, and so I understand you need it. And with what you're building, I definitely see why you would want it. The side yards and rear yards with your garages and the 25 feet, I don't see a big concern there either. So, overall, I like the idea. I like the concept. Really kind of my only two concern areas are, one, a better understanding of the way those residential units are being broken down to understand the number of units specifically in there. I did have some kind of fear factor when it just started talking about, hey, we could build 6-bedroom units in there if we want to, we'll just make them really big. It's that if you put it in the code that way, someone might be crazy enough to actually do it. If you put it in your development text and we approve it that way. So anything you can do to lock that down, and then again, just personal preference, I'd like all of them to be first floor commercial and upper residential, but I understand that you need certain things to make this move forward. So
Yeah, and that's just so much commercial. That's the problem with a lot of those projects that you see. You go to Creekside, go to, it's just so much commercial that they can't lease, it just stays vacant. And now the project just doesn't work, and it's a ghost town. So what we find and have found is that if we limit it to certain areas, then we get enough mass if they stay vibrant. Otherwise, people just don't want to be tenants there. So I don't disagree with you. In the real world, that would be awesome. It just becomes an impossibility to have that first floor built.
no, I appreciate the opinion.
But I don't disagree with
personal
you.
preference, but I like to understand, kind of where you're coming from, and if you can provide me with some background on it, I appreciate that.
And I would agree with him. I would like to see that broken down a little more. And I guess I was looking for some clarity to two things. The garages on the south, are they for residents in building 4? What are they servicing?
3 and 4.
Yeah.
You said that 3 was all commercial. Did I-
No, only the first floor.
Just on the first floor.
3 is commercial on the first floor. Okay. And those apartments would be, not two-story apartments, would be apartments on the second floor, apartments on the third floor. Those outside stairs, do they have elevators? How do you get to them?
They would have interior stairs. These would be interior hallways. These wouldn't be breezeways.
I think you said that last time, but I couldn't recall.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the garage is why we have them there as the buffer.
And I did appreciate the work on the NAICS codes. That's a big improvement and reassuring. And one term that I was making some guesses about what it was, masonry walls or masonry water. I found it. Was it under the architectural details?
Is that the stone pond tent walls?
Maybe that was it. I don't know. I just wasn't sure what that was.
Head walls and head walls? That's Ken's term.
I guess we didn't get into that. Is that in the text about where the fountains are, about stone
Yeah.
doors and
Yes.
drains and?
That should be at the end of the open space descriptions. At the end of that, it should
I don't
mention
think I saw it. I believe you, but we do kind of like to have those, have an aesthetically pleasing.
Head walls, head walls and head walls.
Okay, I didn't know to see that. That wasn't what I was actually. Well, I'm still trying to find out about that other language.
Was it in the architecture itself for the
Yes, it's in the architectural descriptions, I think.
water table?
Maybe that's it. What is it?
Water table is the stuff that, well, like if you have stone or brick that comes up this high around the bottom of your building, they call that a water table. It's an architectural term. How do you, I guess,
I
why
was
do you
only
get that
guessing
high?
about that one.
Yeah.
I think I'll ask. Sorry.
That's what they call it. It's like a portico share. You need to
Okay.
cover drop off.
Okay, I do see the head walls and thank you, that's good. I missed that. That's any questions I have.
I want to hammer, I would love to see the numbers on
Sure.
there. So that would be great. I appreciate where we have kind of how you've structured it out now with the rec center down below. I'll be excited to see what we have in there. I understand completely what you're saying with the commercial because we don't want it to be a ghost town. It's really hard when you look at what's happening with commercial, and even though there will be so many residents here, whatever comes in has to appeal, and like you can only have so many coffee shops or bakeries or things of that nature. You're not probably gonna have a clothing store come in here. We do have a lot of buildings where things can come in, so I understand that. I do like how you have the ones that are around the green space, how those are commercial, because I think that commercial plus the residential above, I think that would be really nice. Yeah, I like what you did with the pond, covered by the oak tree. And I honestly didn't really have much, on this one. Yeah, I don't have much, so. I still would love to understand, and I know that you guys don't have this information, because what's gonna happen with that road. But that goes down into Burlington Mountain, you guys don't have that information, it's not, you know.
No, we
It's
don't.
out there, so,
Yeah, because it's going to be ultimately up to them to decide
Yeah.
if they want to connect to it.
yep, exactly.
And I know I've had some brief conversations with the county where they're saying that they will probably make us even build that portion as private because they don't think that they want to maintain it, until something happens. So.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I mean, ultimately, it's going to go straight through that place because
Yeah.
the value down there is not what it is today.
Yeah.
So,
No, outside of just the numbers, that's the biggest thing for me is understanding that. And I think Jasper said it to that point of making sure that like one entire building isn't studio. You like, you do have some variation.
that's Melrose Place building.
Yeah.
Really big.
Yeah, now, we have that breakdown, it's predominantly twos, 25 to 30% ones. We'll probably have some threes, because when we were thinking about, that's why I added, they will probably have a resident manager, and something tells me that they're gonna wanna have more than two. But we'll limit that to, 2% or whatever, we'll put a small number on it, and tell you what that is. I probably won't be able to give you a specific breakdown per building, because I don't do the insides of these things, somebody else does, and as much as I want to guess where things are, they tell me that we need linen closets and, elevator shafts and all that stuff. Things that I don't think about,
And just for the record, the people at the mobile home park have been contacted. They know about this. As I pointed out to you early on, they were promised access to a light 23 years ago. And ODOT never delivered.
Yep.
Old timers like us, we can remember those discussions. So it's, and we're still waiting for Connect 23. We don't have all the answers yet.
Mike, you want to identify yourself for anyone watching
Sure.
on YouTube?
Michael Larshade, 236 West Central Avenue. I'm an attorney at law.
There was one other point that was made in the last meeting relative to the adjacent landscape business and the septic system. We have an agreement in place that needs to be formalized and finalized that We're gonna remove the septic system that's on our property, they're gonna vacate the easement, and we're gonna connect the building that is serviced by that with the sanitary sewer system. So that's been agreed to, so it needs to be formalized.
We also took those units out too, because prior to that, which came today, didn't want to use it.
Yes, yes.
Jenny, do you have anything?
No, just going off of what Jasper had said with the sizing on the units, I think it should be more consistent with, I think isn't the one bedroom usually like 800? I would like to see it more consistent with that. Do we have any call out for studios anywhere in our code? I don't think we do. I think one bedroom is as low as you normally go, so I don't really love having the studio. And what buildings will be 45 feet? Are all of them that high? Or?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. But otherwise, I think it looks nice. I personally would like a Trader Joe's. So, since I'm not on board, make that request.
You and me both.
Yeah. That's all I have.
All right, anything else? I will open it up to our audience here, so go ahead, sir.
Good, thank you. My name is Len, L-E-N, Bussard, B-U-S-S-A-R-D, on Connor Lane. I just have two very short questions here. For example, the Oak Park PCD recommendations. Up in the left corner, there's signage and entry feature, and then over to road C. I just wondered if you could tell me what that is? Up here in the corner?
Yeah, that's a label that actually points all the way over to here. She just put it over your guys' houses.
Oh,
Apologies, yes, it will not go there.
okay. Just checking,
Yes.
just checking. Okay, then also the Exhibit Exhibit E10, the traffic study, is that in here?
It's not in what you have, it's in another book. It's, what is this?
It's extensive. We asked for that, didn't we?
You did. We ran out of paper and toner that night.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's big, you wanna look at it.
And it's online too, do you guys have access to it?
Of course.
Yeah, it's, I think, what happens?
Maybe she said something for specific.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's extensive.
Connor Lane is not addressed at all in the study book. There's no traffic reference to Connor Lane within the study. It wasn't part of our study.
Not in this at all. Okay, that's it, thank you.
Okay. Any other audience questions or comments? No? I agree. All right. So, the applicant, in what way would you like to proceed here?
Something tells me there'll be too many conditions for you to vote on it tonight. That's what I'm getting that feeling based off of the TPED in particular. There's a few different things that we need to address that are fairly minor. I would like to do that and give those revisions to you guys so we can make sure that what the trustees get is as good as it's gonna get, because I know how tough it is. Yeah, I know.
They are tough.
So I would like to do that, to break these things down for you guys, and get that to you. So, I don't think we need a whole lot of time for this, so whenever you next regular meeting.
Well, we have open time on April 23rd. I don't know if that's enough time for you to make revisions.
You would need it by April 9th?
Which is today.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's tough, yeah.
That all happened today.
Now maybe tomorrow, and I could go back and finish it off tonight. That's probably too soon, yeah.
So the meeting after that is, well, so I guess, are
June's
we,
fall.
The
Or
next
wait,
two
May's
meetings.
is it, well, hold on though, because it's May, it would be May 14th, because
I think-
May 7th is not a full week, right?
Well,
Or this is technically the first week?
yeah, we,
So we're
14th
the
to
14th
28th.
and the 28th, yes.
So Kathy told me that she has something on both those days.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, now I don't know what they are, but she did say they're full. So that, she said the next available date would be June 11th. We can't do the 23rd. Now, I don't think it's unreasonable to consider, finding out from Kathy if those particular hearings are gonna need the full time, that we might be able to piggyback. But we really kind of have to table two at time certain, so.
Yeah,
Do you know what's on the 23rd right now?
I mean, if you could,
Is Kathy over there?
No, she left.
I mean, if you guys didn't absolutely have to have 2 weeks, like if we could get it to you, I'm talking out loud, but the 15th, I mean, this is not heavy lifting.
Well, I sort of agree with you, and we do have to table to a time certain. So it's really kind of up to you what you think you can pull together. And I guess up to us, how much time do we feel like we would like to have to review
Do
changes?
we have anything currently for this one? Would be my first question.
Wait,
You said.
no, it's open, 23rd is open,
Oh, the 23rd is open.
of April, of
The
April.
23rd of April is open.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought you said we already had something that night.
no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're open that night, we're just full in May.
Okay.
So if we were gonna adhere to our 2-week requirement to have changes, we wouldn't be able to do the 23rd of April.
I think with it being so close to having just gone through it,
Right.
it would be fine to have less than 2 weeks. It's,
Okay, so you guys are in agreement with that?
Yeah. okay.
Yeah.
What are the advertising requirements of the continued meeting?
There aren't any.
no, what are your advertising requirements though, Lisa,
For,
for continuance for?
oh, there's none.
Yeah, we
Because I
do a
guess we
time
already
certain
have our-
table.
Yeah, that's what the notice, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So back to you, when do you think you would be able to get us revisions?
End of day, and I don't know if it matters to you guys, whether it's end of day, the 15th, beginning of the day, 16th, and that range, it gives you a week to look at everything, it gives us a week to put it together. And we're probably just gonna do revisions and just add those, not a whole submission.
Right, that would be my assumption, it would
Yeah.
just be packets that
Yeah.
would replace.
If that gives you enough
I don't need,
time.
I don't need a third one.
No.
I brought both of them, and that was a little,
And one suggestion, I don't know if this would be, if the group would be in agreement, but, you know, when we were talking about, because PCD doesn't technically allow residential, you know, it's gonna be, that's a main divergence there. Like, if you look at, chapter 15 in our zoning code, it's the commercial, the VCO and VIO stuff. They have residential use and mixed use, so maybe kind of keeping an eye on that for following, you know, floor plans and size requirements, because you know that's what we like. So that might help you in your determination of how things are gonna be set up and sizing of rooms and things like that.
Yeah.
Or sizing of apartments, and just to keep it in mind.
Also TPUD.
And TPD, just a TPD, it's 800.
It's 800 for one bedroom. It's a TPUD.
Yeah.
Everywhere we have it, it's 800 for one bedroom.
Unfortunately, I gotta get people that wanna live everywhere here though too, and they're competing with stuff right down the street. I mean, I hate to say, I mean, you know, you add $300 a month just for 120 square feet. I want the apartments built. But we'll go there.
But just as, like a setup in general too, of the buildings,
Oh,
and, you know, I think it's just a good guide.
okay, oh, as far as a percentage of stuff.
Percentages, density,
Sure.
that type of thing, just kind of, I think it's obviously something we all agreed on, and
Okay.
it kind of throws that. So
Yeah.
it's got mixed use, it's got the retail, commercial use, mixed use,
We
so.
did, if I remember, we did put a lot of the standards from that in
You could have, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head as I was going back and reading PCD and going, am I right? It isn't allowed for residential.
All right, so we're in agreement that we are going to table to a time and date certain on April 23rd. You're going to get materials to us April 16th at the latest.
Yes.
Can I ask that they,
And that
we
may
try to
go-
make it 15?
Sure.
Because just in case Kathy needs time to do something on her
That's
side,
true.
just for the 16th, and then we can come together.
So you feel like that's doable?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll pull everybody off their other projects to get it done.
All right, well then I will make a motion to table BZC 24-001, BZC 24-002, and BZC 24-003 to a time and date certain Tuesday, April 23rd at 7 p.m.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Ms. Shields?
Yes.
Ms. Brown? Yes. Mr. D. Christopher?
Yes.
We look forward to seeing you again, so thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff, appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun.
We do appreciate the work, I mean, the changes and the, or
It's
the
one of the better
better,
packages I think you've done, so.
yes.
Okay.
Monstrosity, that's for sure, but, so it does take a lot of work than we're like.
Yeah, it's not like doing.
All right, do we have any business from Dear Valentine or
They should be on.
Well, I can share a couple things for you guys. I talked to Megan right before the meeting. They have a lot of candidates for the township administrator that Township administrator.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, she posted it on some other site and she got several interested
Great.
parties, and she said she's excited, but she would give me details. But they've interviewed a couple, let's put it that way. And then within the township, I know because of the tornado and stuff, I've been dealing with a lot of unique resident requests for one development to clean up their stuff so the stuff doesn't blow out of their yard into the others. And the last piece is they're rebuilding all of those towers, electric towers. For probably the next 2 to 3 months, they'll be there, putting up 6 poles that were taken down. And there's been requests for temporary parking for the Blaze soccer group. But they want to do the Glen Mead. It's stubbed and run a 200 by 200 there, and it's not zoned that way. I suggested to them, go to the high school park. It's right across the street from you, and there's 500 spots.
Yeah, why would you not just walk across the street?
Well, they said that then they have to walk under where the construction's going on to put the poles back up, is why the electric company wanted to be on the other side, on the east side, instead of the west side of the road. Okay, I don't know how much construction's going on, but I know the last few days since being back, it's been one lane, everything closed and that kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of interesting stuff going on.
It's probably not an idea to do with you, but is the road department replacing all of these street signs that got taken out?
Jesse's working on the street signs and
That's what I
stuff.
thought, but I think somebody from my community contacted him.
I don't know if anybody's contacted him. This morning they had other events that he somehow is involved in the digging the holes for the cemetery. Yeah, I was talking to him this morning, and we're kind of trying to help each other, if you will. I don't know, but I've seen a lot of the signs that are bent over.
Yeah.
I think they're getting rid of it as quickly as they can.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was somewhere.
Well, this is my first week back into the
Yeah.
office, and so I'll.
Welcome back.
You missed that.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I thought you might know. It's good. I said it before, I love Berlin Township. I told Megan I'll do whatever I can to help, and that is You know, I'm gonna do
Do you know where we are on filling alternates?
I know that at least one candidate was interviewed,
Okay.
and I think, I don't know anybody else that's applied. I actually went to the VA and called them and sent them the job descriptions to try and get
Good.
interested parties, because I thought somebody who was military discipline and all that and retired because of the scale, that would be a good candidate for it. And so they sent a few, and Delaware County Jobs and Services, I contacted that too while I was in Florida. It's like, I've stayed busy, guys. Oh, the last piece is that I put all of the 2024 permits, which 77 are online. As of today, though, there's 107, so I got 30 more to do now. But all the permits that have come in of building homes as well as decks, as well as all swimming pools and that. And they're online, and the good part is I've used my background of imaging that were put in PDFs that she sent me to Florida as an upload to the iWork Queue, which is the application that township bought back in June to use for both permits and code violations. So I just said, we'll start with this one, which is basically the permits and
Awesome.
Yeah.
Going digital. Yeah, it's only been 27 years.
and it's been 22 that I did it the last time for Grange Insurance. In Grange, the first image was my boat policy. Because I built a system and now there's 55 billion documents out there. So, and they're still using the same system. You know, so.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Other than that, I'm glad to see you guys. I don't like Mother Nature right now, but.
She's being wily.
Yeah.
She's a bit squirrely.
Hopefully you don't end up sick, because it's been a lot of up and down temperatures. Like really huge swings.
Well, I think I mentioned you before that coming back last Wednesday,
Oh, gosh.
4 a.m. until 11:30 p.m. I drove straight through because I don't like for the last 2 hours to stay in Cincinnati for the night. That doesn't make sense. So when I got home in short sleeve shirt, I had to unload the Milano with the trunk. Her luggage is 100 pounds. So I'm like, honey, but it got, but when I got in the house, the worst thing is, and I got it, did you turn that off yet? I don't want everybody in the world. Thank you.
No, we're not. You'll have to say that one. Hold
Okay,
that thought.
well, okay,
Hold that thought.
but that's it, that's,
We're glad you're back. I have two other items. Is number one, I do want to resurrect our work groups. We keep saying we're going to do it. Yeah. So I don't know if you heard when you were in Florida, we talked about trying for a few minutes with each meeting to do some work groups.
yes.
And I don't know that we've stalled, but I guess we need some ideas about what do we feel is the highest priority to revisit those.
Landscape.
Landscape?
Just trying to finish it up, because what I understand about the resolution is it's April the 22nd is the meeting that they're going to do something with the trustees, their first hearing on it. Ken O'Brien had some comments. I said, great. And I would try and incorporate those with Scott Sanders into it if everybody agrees. That's.
Well, then what if, because it seems like our next meeting on the 23rd is going to be somewhat brief. I mean, anything down, right? But what if, do we want to maybe just have an open dialogue about landscaping? I mean, not really focus on any
Whatever
one
you-
little thing. You're kind of our expert, but I think everybody's got thoughts and some experience, so.
Okay.
And I did talk to the attorney that reviewed the resolution, and she kind of gave me some,
Okay.
not ideas, but just what my thoughts were. She confirmed and,
Okay. Good. So I know we got some examples that we thought were maybe a little bit too much, but at the same time, they did address some things. So I think let's do that as our first, and just really an open dialogue. We'll just talk about it and everybody weigh in.
Just have Kathy put it on the agendas.
I will send her an email. In addition to that, I'm sorry, I write this down before, my goodness, my brain throws it out, is, Memorial Day is
Yes, that
the
was.
27th of May. And so our ordinary zoning meeting would be the 28th of May, but the trustees have already grabbed the 28th of May to have their trustee meeting. So we
How
would,
can they do that if it's a regular?
they've done it every Memorial Day. They have. So I want to just throw out there, what do we think about changing our meeting to Wednesday, the 29th at the end of May? And we do have, Kathy mentioned that there definitely is a hearing. I think it's the one with the gymnast.
Oh,
I think that's on the 28th.
Okay.
okay.
And so she's gonna have to, after we decide when we can hold our meeting,
Mhm.
she has to let them know and see if that date works for them.
I'm a little confused with that because they said that the 2 meetings in May were already booked.
Well, they are, but
But
because
they're,
the
okay,
the trustees snagged our spot, basically.
Okay.
We've been bumped,
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
but we just have to decide where we're gonna land. So of course, we've advertised our meetings for the whole year. This will require new advertising, but we have one a month. But that 29th date will work.
It works for me, actually.
Yeah, Lisa, you're key.
Yeah.
Sometimes Wednesdays don't, but that one does.
Okay, anybody else?
It's
fine for me.
Okay, so we will move our regularly scheduled meeting from May 28th to Wednesday, May 29th at 7 PM. And I know that we do have applicant, and Kathy will work with them to make sure that's okay. All right, anybody else got anything?
So Kathy will cancel the 28th and then have a special meeting on the 29th, right?
Right, yeah. Alright, change to 529 and talk to applicant. Okay. That works. All right, if there is nothing else, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Then you can tell us your story.
Yeah, he's got vacation stories. All right, adjourned. Thank you, everybody.